and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm, and Ann has an announcement.
I'm sucking on a cough drop. I'm Ann Northrop. Thank you to Rachel Lipstein for sitting in last week, but I have a little bone to pick with Rachel. She referred to the World Series fifth game as the Dodgers game. That was extremely offensive to those of us who are Red Sox fans.
Congratulations, Ann, on the World Series.
Thank you. I will take it personally.
On the other hand, the election results were mixed.
Well, before we get to that, though, one follow-up on that game. We showed the banner drop of the trans flag at Dodger Stadium.
Let's show it.
Let's show that picture again. There it is. Trans people deserve to live.
Imagine that.
But you guys were wondering who did that, and in fact, we know who did that, and it was people from the Trans Latin Coalition in LA. That's Maria Roman on the left, Bambi Salcedo on the right, longtime activists, and they just, they just very casually come into Dodger Stadium carrying the flag,
Yeah,
and then
you stuff it in your clothes.
Well, I don't think they even did that. They were sitting with it on their lap, and then they just walked down to the railing and took a few minutes to attach it. And no one said anything or did anything, and then they dropped it.
Let that be a lesson to you.
All right, that's activism.
And
Meanwhile,
we are going to try to see what the lessons were from the elections, because we, of course, as you know, we got back the House and failed to win back the Senate. But there were historic wins for the LGBT community, and for women, and for people of color.
We'll fill you in on details you might not have heard on the mainstream news broadcasts. And we hope that the U.S. House is now poised to pass the LGBT Equality Act.
They better.
Well, Nancy Pelosi has promised to, but of course then you have the Senate and the president.
And very gratifying win in Massachusetts, where the voters there rejected an attempt to repeal their transgender rights law overwhelmingly.
In other news, a sad story from Brooklyn where anti-Semitic vandalism has been charged to a schizophrenic young gay man.
A Catholic bishop in New York was removed from ministry for his past sexual abuse of boys.
This is getting, this news is getting icky. An ex-gay therapist in Florida was found cruising for men online.
Yeah, wait till you hear about him. A political leader in Tanzania has called for the hunting down of LGBT people.
And strangely enough, the United States of America has joined a push for investigation into anti-gay persecution in Chechnya.
And I will review Harvey Fierstein's Torch Song on Broadway without Harvey Fierstein.
And we'll talk about a number of other things like that. But we'll start with the elections, because why not?
Yes, let's go on to the next election, when I'm putting forth Stacey Abrams and Beto O'Rourke as the ticket for the Democrats in 2020. They won't have to be bothered governing or being in legislatures. They're very appealing. I say go.
Well, if we could get rid of the Electoral College and just do popular vote, we could put up Mickey and Minnie Mouse and get them elected, because we got millions more votes for Democrats this year than the Republicans did, even though they...
In the Senate races.
Yes.
We got, it was like 55-45 for the Democrats in terms of Senate races, and we lost Senate seats.
Yeah.
Because it's a horrible system, and it frustrates people enormously, because we work so hard, and we are the majority, and we don't live in a country that was governed by the majority.
So that is frustrating, but now let's get into the details of this. We will start with the LGBT candidates for federal office.
All right.
So we should start with the Senate, where Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, who months ago we thought was in trouble because the Koch brothers and their allies were pouring so many tens of millions of dollars into the race against her, but she won handily in Wisconsin.
Well, Wisconsin was a state that Donald Trump won, but we were also able to get rid of the wicked governor, Scott Walker, there in Wisconsin. So that was that's progress.
Now, we hope that Tammy will be joined by her bisexual sister, Kirsten Sinema from Arizona. But as we are taping on Wednesday afternoon, the day after the election, that race is still up in the air. Maybe we'll have better news by the time you see this, but still to be determined in Arizona. So that's our Senate candidates.
And the House, in terms of incumbents, David Cicilline from Rhode Island was reelected. Mark Takano, is it?
Yep, from California.
From California.
Mark Pocan from Wisconsin in Tammy's old House seat.
And Sean Patrick Maloney kept his House seat after losing a race for Attorney General in New York.
Now, we did have two other LGBT people in the House. One of them was Kirsten Sinema, who has moved up to running for Senate. And the other was Jared Polis of Colorado, who has won the governorship of Colorado. This is our first out gay man running for election as an out gay man to win a governorship.
Yes.
We had Jim McGreevey.
For 5 minutes as a gay American governor when he was resigning in scandal. He held on for a few days and, oh, God.
I know. So
what a chapter.
We're very happy for Jared, who's a good progressive and should be a great governor of
And Jim
Colorado.
is doing nice work now with women in prison.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, we have several new members of the House of Representatives who are out LGBT people.
Yeah, let's look at our list. Well, the most exciting, I think, is Sharice Davids, an out lesbian Native American who won a House seat in Kansas.
Unbelievable. Now,
Well, they got a woman governor in Kansas over the evil Chris Kobach.
A Democratic governor,
Yes.
a woman governor. We got rid of Chris Kobach. Now, Sharice Davids is poised like that and posed like that. Don't get rid of those pictures so fast, because she is both a lawyer and a mixed martial arts fighter.
But not the first elected to Congress.
Whoa, mixed martial arts.
There's another woman
fighter?
who was a mixed martial arts.
All right. Well,
fighter.
we're very, very happy that Native American lesbian Sharice Davids is now a member of Congress from Kansas.
And another Native American was elected in New Mexico.
Yes.
But not a lesbian that we know about. And then we have the first lesbian mom, this is our next one in Congress, first lesbian mom, Angie Craig of Minnesota. There she is in the middle in the blue shirt. So that's
now,
with her family.
This is her second run for Congress. And the guy who beat her 2 years ago, she beat this time around. She did not give up. She went back and ran again. And she beat the very anti-LGBT incumbent Republican who had beat her last time.
And then New Hampshire, they get one House seat, and they're now being represented by Chris Pappas. He's the first gay elected to the U.S. House from New Hampshire.
So that's 3 new out LGBT members of Congress.
Might get a couple of others?
Well, we have, Gina Ortiz-Jones from Texas. There's thinking that she might end up in a runoff. We're hoping for that. Bisexual Katie Hill of California is still in a race too close to call. And then, of course, we have Donna Shalala from Florida, the closeted lesbian.
Kind of pathetic at her age.
You'd think, I guess.
She's worked in all these liberal environments.
Yeah, most recently.
And I know some of you resent it when we talk like this, but, she's not like she's living in Tanzania, more about which later. She's living in
Miami.
Florida.
She's held public offices of all sorts for many years.
But we are very excited about the fact that we have a record number of women in the House of Representatives. It's 100 at this point, and we have 2 Muslim women who've been elected to the Congress for the first time.
Now, for those of you who are thinking of fleeing the country, I have a spot for you that is not quite out of the country, but is certainly far, far away, and that's Guam. Guam has just elected a Democratic woman as governor, but her lieutenant governor is an out gay man. Joshua Tenorio, and they've also elected a female legislature.
Now, would you mind, before we go on, because we're going to tell you about all around the states and who's been elected, a little bit more about the implications for the House and the Senate. Could we talk about that a little bit, maybe?
Well, I have a list of things that might come up in the House.
Yeah, I think we should tell people, because what did we win?
Well, we hope we've won the Equality Act finally getting passed by the House of Representatives. Nancy Pelosi did talk about this some in the election
We won
process.
a check and balance on this horrible president. That's what we won.
If we stand firm. Now, one of my concerns is that Democrats, I mean, look at Chuck
Will
Schumer.
fold like a cheap suit?
Well, look what Chuck Schumer did with the judges before the election, saying, that's okay, we'll pass another 15 of your judges as long as we get to go home and campaign.
The fact that we did not win back the Senate means we are condemned to getting all these horrible judges confirmed by the Senate almost automatically. There's almost no one to stop them now. That's horrible.
It is horrible. And we still, we have no one to stop them. Now,
I mean, the Senate
they can't pass everything in the Senate with a majority. They need 60 for a lot of stuff.
Unless they change the filibuster rule. But, I mean, what good would it do them, because the House is there to put a check on them?
Yes. But the Equality Act, at least symbolically, we can pass and then hold their feet to the fire in the Senate.
I mean, there are some Republicans who support the Equality Act, a handful.
But is Mitch McConnell going to let them vote for it?
Well,
no.
If they don't want to go through another election where they could lose. If some of his members need that vote, I don't know. In some states, well, Colorado is up next time, et cetera.
I don't see it happening, but we'll see. Maybe we can. I won a dollar off of Andy by betting that Bob Menendez would get reelected to the Senate from New Jersey.
I was happy to pay it.
So
I won $50 that we'd win the House, though.
Trans-military stuff may come up, and having a Democratic House may help on that. Religious freedom stuff we may be able to stop more easily with a Democratic House. There are some adoption regulations that we may be able to do better on. The definition of sex discrimination to include sexual orientation and gender identity could be helped by a Democratic House.
But most importantly, let's look at who are going to be heading the committees in the House now. Our Congressman Jerry Nadler, a great liberal, is going to be the head of the House Judiciary Committee. He has already announced that he's going to conduct certain investigations into the Trump administration and malfeasance. Adam Schiff is going to head the Intelligence Committee. Finally, we're going to find out what's going on there. Elijah Cummings is going to be head of Oversight and Government Reform of Maryland. Maxine Waters is head of the Financial Services Commission, and she can investigate the criminality of the Trump crime family.
Yeah, we may hear more about her checkered career.
Richard Neal of Massachusetts is head of Ways and Means, and he has already said, I have a perfect right now to see Trump's tax returns, and I am going to.
He was asked about that in his press conference today, and he said, they're still under audit. I can't,
Trump was asked about that.
Yes.
But Neil, the chair of Ways and Means is allowed to see them confidentially, and then the committee has to vote on whether to release them. And there's obviously a reason that Trump hasn't released all these
Doesn't
things.
the Treasury Department have to pass on that? Doesn't Mnuchin get to say whether or not they're actually released?
It's up to the committee. The committee decides on whether to release it. Neil gets to decide, Neil gets to decide as head of Ways and Means whether he wants to see it. He can see anybody's tax returns in the country, so watch out.
You watch out.
And then Nita Lowey is going to be head of appropriations, and Bobby Scott of Virginia is going to be head of education and the workforce. So it's...
I hope they stay strong.
I mean, they're going to be able to provide oversight over this administration and all the criminality in it.
And protect the Affordable Care Act to the extent it's still protectable, and do census stuff too. Let's go back to
the census stuff. I mean, do you think they can stop the question about citizenship on the?
Maybe.
Can block that?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go back to some elections. Out bisexual governor of Oregon, Kate Brown, was reelected in a tougher race than originally thought.
Malcolm Kenyatta is the first out African American representative in the Pennsylvania legislature.
We have a picture of him, Malcolm Kenyatta.
Yeah, there he is.
You know, we
Very exciting.
We elected a lot of out LGBT people to state legislatures around the country. And if you go to the Victory Fund website, you can get a whole long list of people who've been elected and those who've lost. victoryfund.org/ Results 2018.
Results 2018. Victoryfund.org/results 2018. You can see the whole long list. It's fantastic. But before you move off from Pennsylvania, and again, we were up against a tremendous amount of voter suppression this year, especially in Florida and in Georgia. In Florida, of course, the people voted to let offenders vote in the next election, which is fantastic and would have changed the results of this election.
Everybody should be given a vote.
Of course.
Everybody. I don't care if they're in prison or not. You should get a vote.
Whatever. But in Pennsylvania, the reason we made such progress is because the state courts ordered redrawing the lines fairly.
Yes.
And there are several states that voted, the people voted, unexpected states like Michigan, to vote, say, let's do this on a nonpartisan basis.
I think Missouri passed a
this is how the country's going to move forward with a fairer system, if at all.
Well, just in other state house races, just a few of them, in New Hampshire, 2 trans women were elected to the state legislature. In
Neil Rafferty was elected to the House in Alabama.
In Nebraska, a lesbian, Megan Hunt, was the first out LGBT person elected to the state House.
Texas moved from 2 out state legislators to 5, a record.
Yeah.
This is good news, right, folks?
It's fantastic news. Did you do Indiana?
Nope.
J.D. Ford elected to the state Senate.
Nope.
In Florida, Jennifer Webb elected state representative. Oh, and our old pal Zach Walls, the son of the lesbian mothers, who so eloquently addressed the state legislature a few years ago about when they were trying to outlaw civil partnerships, I think. He was elected to the state legislature.
He was a kid at the time.
Yep.
It got him involved in public life, and now he's elected.
Yeah. I'm really astonished by the election of Dana Nessel as Attorney General of Michigan. She is an out lesbian, a lawyer, and she was a local lawyer who took on the case of a lesbian couple in a marriage-related case, custody maybe, and all the national LGBT organizations told her not to do the case, and she said, nonsense. I am taking this. I think she took it to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And she won. And now she runs for Attorney General of Michigan and wins.
Fantastic. But let's remember, the national groups told Edie Windsor not to bring her case either.
Exactly.
And that became our Supreme Court win, which we hope we can hold on to.
We love our national organizations.
Yes.
Some of us contribute to them on a regular
basis. And they got on board
basis.
eventually.
Yes, but they're not right about everything.
And Keith Ellison won for Attorney General of Minnesota, beating, and of course, there was a charge of domestic violence in his relationship, which was not substantiated, but he beat, the main news here is that he beat a lawyer for the Alliance Defending Freedom, who was a total right-wing crazy. And we told you a couple of weeks ago, the polls were changing on that, but Keith Ellison prevailed.
Gavin Newsom elected governor of California. That's good for us.
In New York State, we have an African-American attorney general woman, Tish James, who was our public advocate in New York City now.
Also believed to be not open about her lesbian sexual orientation, as long as we're making a list of those. But even more importantly, I would say in New York, we took back the state Senate for the Democrats in a sweeping win. We've been fighting with the state Senate for years. The other house, the Assembly, is heavily Democratic. The governor is Democratic. But they've had this thing in the state Senate where the Republicans have been in control because several Democrats caucused with them and helped them retain power.
Many of them got vanquished in primaries this year, and that was one of the sweetest things that happened all year in New York. And now
more Democrats were elected, and we have solid control of the state Senate.
So an African-American woman, Andrea Stewart Cousins, will be the leader of the Senate in New York, a Democrat. And now we're going to be pushing.
Will Simca Felder caucus with the Democrats?
Who cares? Well, I wouldn't take him back. I'd put him at the. Well, of course, he's from the Orthodox community, and there is a lot of kowtowing there because they're a voting bloc. So we have to be a voting bloc to get what we want.
Some losses. Lupe Valdez ran a valiant race for governor of Texas, but she was out lesbian sheriff. Just never going to win. I was very sorry to see Heidi Heitkamp lose in North Dakota. I really appreciate her support for, against Kavanaugh, and that was terrific. Similarly, Claire McCaskill. Sorry to see Rob Cordray lose the governor's race in Ohio. Certainly sorry to see Andrew Gillum lose in Florida. I heard a terrible statistic today at the election results. White women.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
More than white men.
White women voting overwhelmingly for Ted Cruz, for Ron DeSantis, for Rick Scott.
What's going on with your people?
I disavow. I disavow, as Trump would say. It's very, very disheartening.
See, we men are becoming more sensitive.
Belly laughs. But those were sad losses. And Christine Hallquist, the trans woman who was the Democratic nominee for governor of Vermont, which was terrific, but she lost to the incumbent Republican.
There were these moderate Republicans that were reelected in some of these places, like Charlie Baker in Massachusetts.
Very not sorry to see Chris Kobach lose the governorship in Kansas.
But Bruce Rauner lost the Republican governor, who tried to moderate a little bit on some LGBT issues, did lose to J.D. Pritzker in Illinois.
Yes, and really, really, really not sorry to see Kim Davis lose the county clerkship in Kentucky.
She was spending too much time, and there's the picture, in Romania in an unsuccessful effort to ban same-sex marriage in the Constitution of Romania.
And other countries around the world.
Oh, boy. Well, that's probably...
She's the traveling show.
She lost for clerk. You're out of a job. It's sweet.
And the guy who beat her said, I will give marriage licenses to everyone. I am not discriminating against anyone.
The gay guy who lost to him in the primary wasn't happy with him.
No.
But Fairness Kentucky did endorse the guy who beat Kim Davis.
And I was really sorry to see Marsha Blackburn win the Senate seat in Tennessee. She is a nightmare.
There are some real horror shows. Now, I don't, what can I say? I guess it's somewhat better for us, for people to see what the Republican Party really is.
Well, that's always been your tack.
But it's somebody described the Senate, U.S. Senate, as the original gerrymander of the country.
Sure.
And it's undemocratic, and we really have to throw it off. I don't know quite how to do it. If you have ideas on how to do it, write me. Well, I mean, seriously, we need a new system. We're never going to win as we should under this system.
Well, we're never going to get it while they have a vote in this, because the small states are never going to give up that power.
But that means we may need another revolution. And
I
don't mean a violent one, but I mean, that's what we had to get the system that we have.
We all have to move to Wyoming.
Owned by Britain.
Are you ready to move to Wyoming?
Well, we could all move to these states and take them over. I mean, you've often advocated that.
I've advocated taking over the Conservative Party in New York State.
Yes.
But they're not very effective anymore.
There was some other good news. We won a bunch of marijuana referenda. I mentioned nonpartisan redistricting. Many states voted to expand Medicaid, although Montana retreated on that. Minimum wage passed, and we've buried the lead.
Massachusetts retained its non-discrimination law on the basis of gender identity and expression.
More than 2-1. The voters of Massachusetts.
Well, the polling had been very good, but we're always nervous about these things because of a hidden vote.
Yeah, we put transgender people, including young people, front and center. You probably saw the ads that we ran on this show.
Yep.
And that's the way to do it, folks. It's not by, having just advocates talk for us and all that. You have to show people what we're talking about. And we did, and we won. And it was Massachusetts, which can be fairly conservative. They have a Republican governor.
So the bottom line for me is mixed bag. Good, some very good news, some very bad news, and I'm disappointed overall because I was hoping we'd do better, but enough to keep me going.
The president thought it was a fantastic victory.
And he's in a better position now to make deals with the House Democrats so he can get stuff passed.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say there are a couple of things that happened, we have a category called Trump, and
well, we knew what a racist he was, and you probably read that Michael Cohen revealed that behind the scenes he says the N-word and he uses a lot of bad terms. But the press did not really report at all. I just learned about it this week that what he really said about a contestant on the Apprentices was, "I can't let that black faggot win."
It was the first season. It had come down to two guys, Bill Rancic, who is the white guy who's Juliana Rancic's husband now, and Kwame Jackson was the other guy. And
this is a viewer of The Apprentice, folks.
That's why I knew Trump was going to win the presidency.
That's why she knew he would win.
In
the Michael Moore show, she was the only one who raised her hand when he said, "Did you ever watch The Apprentice?" There's Ann. I said, "Put it up." No, I'm not mocking you. You know more about our culture as a result.
I'm a sociologist in my TV viewing.
Yes.
So Kwame Jackson was very impressive, but it turns out that Michael Cohen, the Trump lawyer, says that behind the scenes, Trump said, "No way I can let this black fag win." Now, all the networks reported this story a couple of weeks ago when this came out.
And didn't use the F word.
And did not use the F word and did not describe his language as homophobic. They described his racist language. They quoted him saying black F, and they never made clear what he was saying.
That could have been the other F word.
It could have been many F words, but we will tell you on this show that he said black fag, and for all of you who still live in some dreamland that makes you think that Donald Trump is not homophobic, it's time to wake up. Nonetheless, he still won the Senate. I was also happy to see that 56 corporations put out a statement condemning his anti-trans policies.
Now I would like the 56 corporations to stop funding candidates for public office that vote against our rights.
Yes, that would be nice.
That's the real test of corporations.
That would be nice.
Well, the Land O'Lakes woman, the lesbian who runs Land O'Lakes, they pulled back on their support of Steve King in Iowa. Too late, he won.
Exactly.
A horrible racist white supremacist in Iowa. Keeps a Confederate flag on his desk. By the way, there were people in New York I know who went upstate to campaign for Democrats. They saw a lot of Confederate flags up there.
You live in the United States of America. You should get used to these things.
I know that, but that's we fought for the Union. The Union. All right.
He's so naive.
Well, I'm like a Gloria Steinem. I'm a hopeaholic. All right. We had a great story this week, a triumph for Truth Wins Out. That's the name of an organization. They were given a tip that this guy Goldwasser, who's a conversion therapist,
Norman Goldwasser,
to make you an ex-gay, was trawling people on Manhunt and something to do with bears online. And
Florida.
He got caught, and he said he was caught dead to rights, right? So he finally had to admit it, and he said, "I've helped so many people, I just couldn't help myself." I mean, come on.
That's the work of Wayne Besson of Truth Wins Out, who revealed this, who's done a great job over the years of confronting these people with their hypocrisy.
And our colleague Chris Cooper recommends, as I do, the movie Boy Erased. And of course, the leader of the conversion therapy group there is now openly gay and lives with his husband.
And I am taken by what happened in New York City a week or so ago when the police commissioner, James O'Neill, apologized to the LGBT community because 24 years ago, in 1994, a lesbian was sexually assaulted in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. And the cops, the two female cops, supported her, believed her story, were looking for the perpetrator. But the top brass,
led by John Miller, who you see on television all the time as a spokesperson when there are terrorist incidents.
John Miller talked to Mac McAlery, columnist for the New York Post.
Who was glorified by Tom Hanks in a stage show by Nora Ephron.
Yeah. All right-wingers. So,
not Tom Hanks.
Not Nora Ephron. I meant
Yes.
McAlery and John Miller.
Yes.
So John Miller talks to Mac McAlery and feeds him this story that the lesbian has made all this up in order to publicize something.
Yeah.
And Mac McAlery writes this column just slurring her all over the place.
Several.
Yeah.
So they've apologized. They still refuse
24 years
They
later.
still refuse to apologize for the Stonewall raids or the ongoing arrest of trans women who get arrested all the time still in New York just for walking down the street. They get arrested. They say you're prostituting yourself just because you're walking. No evidence of prostitution, because who are they going to believe? The cops or you?
It's very, very upsetting.
Well, maybe it will help that we've got a transgender judge in Arizona now.
Yes.
She's
Tracy Nadzija.
Yes, she's the first transgender judge in Arizona.
We have a picture of
we
her
do, and
in her judicial robes.
There
she
she
is.
And she says, I know I'm a first, and that makes it a story. I hope it becomes a non-story very quickly. And she's the third out transgender judge in the country.
In Iowa, we've been telling you about the Orange City Library, where some right-wing guy, religious fanatic, went in, checked out some LGBT children's books, and then took them outside and filmed himself burning them and, ranting about the evils of homosexuality.
Hey, kids, you won't be reading that book. That's what he was saying.
Yes, you will, because the library has now they put out the call, and they have now received hundreds of books donated, plus thousands of dollars. So congratulations to everyone who has supported the Orange City Library in Iowa.
Are you trying to tell us something, Bill?
Trump has fired Jeff Sessions.
Oh, Trump has fired Jeff Sessions. Breaking news.
So, I don't know. Who's he putting in?
Do we know?
Yeah.
Who is he putting in?
Matthew Whitaker.
Oh, he's like next in line.
So this
Attorney
is all, then he'll end up getting rid of Mueller, and I hope that the House investigations committees hire Mueller to complete the investigations.
Are you all happy for having reelected all these right-wing Republicans to the United States Senate? Because they're going to be the ones confirming the next Attorney General.
Yes, that's
well,
true.
Sessions out. Not that I ever thought I would be saying anything in support of Jeff Sessions.
Who's an anti-gay horror.
A pox on all their houses.
Right.
And the first of many changes to come. I predict Chris Kobach will wind up in one of these seats. He could be Attorney General.
Well, he was already appointed to the Elections Commission by President Trump that disbanded.
Yes. And then he went back and ran for governor, and then he got defeated for governor, so now he can come back to the Trump administration.
It will take a silver stake through his heart to kill him.
Well, Jeff Sessions out.
And Billy Porter is out. The actor who was won the Tony for Kinky Boots. He wrote an op-ed piece in Out magazine talking about the sexual abuse that he endured as a child from the age of 9 and then going on for 4 years from his stepfather. It's a rather lurid story. Why did he do it? Why did he talk about this? He was inspired by Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and her standing up to Kavanaugh. And that's why he did it. And so he feels free now.
He is miraculous in pose, by the way. He's very, very impressive in that show.
He's running the House, isn't he?
Well, no, he's independent. He's running the balls.
Yeah.
And he's really, really good. Well, speaking of abuse, a Catholic bishop in New York has
We bagged a bishop.
He has been removed from public ministry.
That's him. His name is John Jennick. Now, this is the one who was accused by Mick Meenan, who was on this show talking about it. Mick wrote for the Gay City News, the New York Times, New York One, and this as a priest, as a younger priest in the 1980s, this Jennick cultivated him, and abused him. It was horrendous, and I guess Mick is going to get some sort of a settlement out of the Archdiocese. But he went before their independent review board just last week, and then they removed Jennick because they said that the charge is credible.
All right, hopscotching some other news stories. In L.A., the Los Angeles Football Club, which is their soccer team, is upset that their fans are using gay slurs, as so many soccer fans do, calling the opposing goalie puto, and Spanish for fag, and they are threatening to eject fans who keep doing that.
Did we do this story?
No.
No. So in New York, in the wake of the horrible stuff in Florida, this kid went on a rampage in Brooklyn, vandalizing synagogues, painting horrible things on the walls, setting trash fires, setting a fire inside one of them. He turns out to be a 26-year-old gay kid who some of us know, and who had been taken under the wing of Council Speaker Christine Quinn, given an internship. James Polite, his name was. He worked on hate crimes there, but he's bipolar, possibly schizophrenic, and when he has these off his meds, this is what comes out. His foster parents were Jewish, so it's a horrible, horrible story. He's charged with a lot of horrible crimes and hate crimes, but he's in psychiatric observation right now in Woodhull Hospital.
It's a great dilemma getting people to stay on their meds, because of course when they're on their meds, first of all, the meds have side effects and can make you very logy and sleepy, but you feel okay, yes. So you think, all right, I don't want to take them because the side effects, and
exactly.
then you get off them.
Same thing with HIV drugs, I'm learning. I work at New Alternatives for Homeless LGBT Youth on the board there, and a number of our kids are hospitalized on HIV, and a lot of them have HIV because they go off their meds. And why did they go off their meds? I felt okay. You felt, yeah, but you got to take them forever.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson everybody has to learn.
All right. This Sunday, a couple things. In Washington, D.C., there's going to be a wreath laying, as there is annually, at the grave of Sergeant Leonard Matlovich, who was an out gay member of the armed forces, died some years ago.
And in New York...
can I...
Yes, sure. I thought you were done.
No. At the Congressional Cemetery, this is in honor of all LGBT vets.
And in New York, Janet Weinberg, who was the former director of GMHC and high up in a lot of organizations, someone beloved by us, on Sunday at 2 p.m., her memorial service will be held at the Manny Cantor Center at 197 East Broadway, down there towards Chinatown, really.
Yes,
yeah.
Right by the Manhattan Bridge.
Yeah.
All right, in Hawthorne, New York, Applebee's, the restaurant, has agreed to a $100,000 settlement with a trans woman who worked for them but was fired. She had been badly abused by her fellow employees, and she complained to the EEOC, and they supported her claim of discrimination, as sex discrimination, as a trans woman, which of course the Trump administration is not willing to do, but with the support of the EEOC, she got a settlement from Applebee's. And in Worcester, Mass, the College of the Holy Cross, a gay
Catholic school.
Yes, a gay student just walking across campus,
minding his own business,
got attacked by...
punched in the face.
Slurred and punched, not good.
But it's a time for reflection at the school, and it is a Catholic school, but they're taking it very seriously and doing something about it.
And in Morro Bay, California, at Morro Bay High School, controversially, a football coach was fired after he, in a locker room, was lecturing the team and talking to them about something, and one kid was not responding as he wanted, and he looked at him and he said, "Stop looking at me like a homosexual." He's fired. The team is saying he was actually a good guy. This was not a good act on his part. And we mourn the death of a couple of prominent lesbians. Ruth Gates, champion of coral reefs, an expert on coral reefs, died at 56, much too soon. She worked and lived in Hawaii, is survived by her wife, Robin Burton Gates, who said she could do everything well. She was good at computers, fantastic at business. She could remodel homes. She was a fantastic cook. She had a third-degree black belt in karate, but she was really the world's expert on coral reefs and lauded for that. And Maria Irene Fornes, 88, playwright.
Avant-garde.
Avant-garde, off-Broadway plays, but adored and lionized. Tony Kushner, she's not spoken of as an important American playwright, and she should be. She had terrifyingly high standards and was terribly blunt about what others did her work. Her productions were unforgettable. She was really a magical maker of theater.
A lot of stuff right down there at La Mama, yes?
Yes, La Mama. And she was famous for having a relationship with Susan Sontag for a long time.
Wow.
Anyway, all right, moving on to international news.
Well, better news from Mexico. The Senate there, we told you about this last week, but the whole Senate unanimously passed a bill granting pension rights and health care benefits to same-sex married couples. Now, 13 of 31 states have full marriage equality, and you can get married elsewhere. It's very complicated, but that's a step forward.
And a court in Mexico ruled that a Mexican couple living in New York City had the right to marry at the consulate in New York City of Mexico.
The Bermuda government's challenge to same-sex marriage, being forced to do that, is underway. This is their appeal. They had to import judges to hear the case, and had to import a lawyer to defend them in the case.
That's still going back and forth.
Yes.
In Tanzania,
Awful.
The local governor of Dar es Salaam said, "I'm going to round up all the gay people. I'm going to imprison them." Now,
and this has inspired people around the country
to send in thousands of messages with names of gay people to be rounded up. Now, in previous times, gay people rounded up and imprisoned have been raped by the police.
Well, the penalty for consensual same-sex activity is 30 years in prison.
Even the United States of America has warned its citizens in Tanzania to be careful about their social media, lest they become targets of this roundup.
They rounded up 10 men in Zanzibar for being gay after they were reported for attending a same-sex wedding.
Yes, and this is also,
the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is trying to distance himself from this guy, but the culture is picking it up and saying, yeah, let's get the gays. Which is the same thing that's happening in the United States with all these attacks that are happening.
And then it's having ancillary effects like HIV/AIDS prevention work for gay men is being shut down because of this. The European Union has recalled its ambassador to Tanzania over this, and this is how bad it is. LGBT activists in Kenya are inviting Tanzanian gays to come there.
Well,
and Kenya is not a paradise.
Out of the frying pan into the fire, we tell you how bad everything's getting in Brazil, but across the Venezuelan border in Brazil, they've opened the first safe house for LGBT refugees from Venezuela in Brazil, with the help of UN High Commission for Refugees.
And in Indonesia, in Sumatra, they have picked up 10 women identified as lesbians. Who knows whether they really are.
They were seen kissing online and cuddling, and they were reported to their parents. They were made to sign a statement they would not engage in deviant behavior anymore. There is no criminality for same-sex behavior there, by the way, except in the Aceh province. And they were sent for guidance.
We've told you for quite some time now about all the horrors inflicted on gay men, in particular in Chechnya, and how many have fled the area. And Now, and for years we have begged the United States and the UN to get involved in this, and of course the Russian government. Well, now the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe,
which is sort of a European and thing that we're a part of,
yeah,
which is about dealing with Russia over some issues, I think. And Russia is not dealing with the Chechnya situation, so this is meant to put added pressure on making that happen.
Well, it's 16 countries, including the United States, and they have all authorized a fact-finding mission about the anti-LGBT atrocities in Chechnya. We'll keep an eye on that. Costa Rica and Panama are still stalling on marriage equality.
So the Roman Catholic Church had their synod on youth, and they were preparing a document, and they included reference to the LGBT community. And then in the final draft, the word LGBT disappeared.
It went away.
The whole section on gay people only passed by 2 votes. It's a little too hot for them.
And in Australia, the new Conservative Prime Minister, Evangelical Prime Minister Scott Morrison, has branded as nonsense the idea of gender-neutral passports or birth certificates.
But these were supposed to go into effect next week, and he's stopping it.
Well, the Labor Department proposed it, and he says nonsense.
Okay.
In Cuba, they are there's a proposal for marriage equality in the new proposed constitution. Controversial, not voted on yet. So there was supposed to be a kiss-in support of this. It was canceled officially, but they held it anyway.
And in Thailand, the Life Partnership Bill, which is supposed to grant gay couples most of the rights of marriage, but not marriage, and will not include adoption, is really moving through the legislature this month.
The parliament in the Czech Republic is supposed to be having a debate on marriage equality, but they have postponed it yet again. This is not the first time. They do have registered partnerships there. They've had them since 2006. But they're not in any hurry to do marriage. And in Armenia? Yes. There was a Christian LGBT conference scheduled, but it has been canceled under threats of violence.
Mm-hmm. AIDS news.
Okay. Well, in my sociological TV watching, one of the things I watch is Empire, with Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson and the 3 sons. Well, one of the sons is gay, Jamal, and he's had a fraught storyline for the entire series, including first his father literally threw him in a trash can when he was young.
There they are.
But now they're friends.
They look like they're in...
that's Jamal on the right, and that's his new boyfriend on the left.
They look like they're in London.
They do, don't they? Maybe they are. But the new boyfriend has now come out as HIV positive. And Jamal has come out as being on PrEP.
Oh, good.
Yes.
He's setting a good example.
Yes. Well, his mother, Cookie, Taraji P. Henson, became aware of this, and she freaked out. How dare you put yourself in danger? How dare you date someone who's HIV positive? Why would you take this chance?
Did he explain that it's protecting him from danger?
Yes, he did. And that's the point, is that their Empire has taken this on as a teaching moment. Not yet, but that was only last week. This week, she may be better educated. These things take time. You want to stretch these out over several episodes.
Okay.
You can't deal with the whole thing in 5 minutes.
Not like this show, where we plow through 50 stories a week.
Well, you know, Empire is produced by Lee Daniels, out gay man, and Eileen Chaikin, who produced the L Word for many years. It's a very LGBT produced show, and with that consciousness and sensibility. So I think they're going to do a good job with this storyline.
The meth crisis has not gone away, but there's going to be a conference about it.
Yep. On November 29th, Party Boy Meth and Health Conference from 4 to 10 p.m. at the Schomburg Center in New York. On 515 Malcolm X Boulevard. This is mostly for Black and Latino gay men and trans people. Panels, film, food. We'll tell you more about it as we get closer to it. And the International Congress on Drug Therapy in HIV Infection took place in Glasgow, Scotland. And there was one interesting piece of news, which is a study that showed that a combination of one protease inhibitor with another antiretroviral was just as effective as a 3-drug therapy. So this
Now you tell me.
this may simplify treatment, and it's something you can check out by talking to your doctor. Doctors are beginning to implement this, and talk to your doctor and see if it's for you.
I left out a transgender story from the United States. This one took place in Ohio. There was a trans student there named Elena Bruning, and her professor at Shawnee State University, Nicholas Meriwether, was willing to call Elena by the name that she has, but not by the pronouns that she had adopted. So the school said, that's the way we do it here. We respect what pronouns people want to use. He says, this is a violation of my evangelical faith, and I'm suing you.
Wait a minute, who's on what side?
The professor doesn't want to use the pronouns.
So
he is suing to say, I shouldn't have to do this.
I should be able to disrespect my students and be rude.
She's not a she. God created him, blah, 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 blah,
What do you care? Call people by what they want to be called.
Exactly.
What difference does it make to you?
It's called politeness.
And respect and all of that.
Yes.
All right. So you went to see Harvey Fierstein's Torch Song.
Well, yes, that's the name of the play now. It used to be Torch Song Trilogy. Now it's called Harvey Fierstein's Torch Song. And Harvey Fierstein ain't in it. So right in the middle there is Michael Urie, who has taken over the role that Harvey made famous and, of course, tries to make it his own. It's very hard for me to get Harvey out of my mind. I saw it so many times. I think the show...
There's not much of a physical resemblance.
Well, except that they keep some of the lines about that in.
Really?
Yes, like about his size and his voice.
I would call that bad copy editing.
Edward Albee. We even change Shakespeare sometimes if we need to. So, but on the other hand, when Mercedes Rule, you saw her there, she plays the mom, the not very accepting at all mom who comes up from Florida. That's when the show really develops heart, and it works in that third act, I think.
If you can hang around for the third act.
Well, yes, it's after the intermission.
It's
gotten nice notices from almost everybody, and we love Harvey, but this is directed by Moises Kaufman.
You were a little kinder to Waverly Gallery last week than I would have been, given that I did not hang around for the second act.
No, I just thought we were being subjected to what it's like to live with someone with Alzheimer's.
Yes,
I've already done that.
Well, it didn't go anywhere.
That's what it just. And they even at the second act they even say, people need to see what this is and what it's like. And
I don't think this is news to anybody.
If not everybody knows somebody with Alzheimer's, but
I don't know. I think we've seen it a lot.
Well, it brought Elaine May back to the stage, and that's worthwhile.
I have some results, some award news from the New Fest LGBT Film Festival here in New York last week. The audience awarded prizes to Man-Made. Remember the trans male bodybuilding film that we saw a while ago?
Yes.
But it's just popping up in still, I guess, in film festivals. And it won the audience award for Best Documentary. And I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. They really had some interesting characters, some great people in that. And for the feature film, Rafiki, the Kenyan lesbian film, which I did see at the festival, and which I liked, but I thought was a little slow. But the costumes were fantastic. All those colorful patterns of clothes were magnificent. And then the jury, the actual official people who watch these movies, gave Best Documentary to Sydney and Friends, which was about intersex people in Kenya. Kenya is very hot these days.
Yeah.
Gave the Best International Feature to something called Retablo from Peru, and Best U.S. Feature to Jewels of Light and Dark.
What's that about?
Don't know.
No. Well, and next week we'll have reviews of American Son and The Prom on Broadway.
American Son is the Kerry Washington play.
Yes. And The Prom has a gay aspect to it.
And Chris Cooper, our longtime frequent guest co-host,
Your sacrificial moviegoer, Chris
has
Cooper.
a couple of reviews up of Bohemian Rhapsody and Boy Erased.
I will include those in our email. But, he liked Bohemian Rhapsody. There's been a lot of controversy over the portrayal of his homosexuality in it, or bisexuality, I guess you'd say. But Chris wasn't bothered by that aspect of the movie, and it is a very popular movie.
It is. And Boy Erased you liked very much.
I did, and so did Chris. He was very moved by it. And that got some mixed reviews, I noticed. But I thought, and I'm very wary of these things. I sit there like, oh my God, how are you going to portray these gay people in this thing? Is it going to be a cliche? And I was very moved by it. I mean, Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe, two genuine Australians as Arkansas parents, how can you go wrong? They were excellent.
And I saw a movie this weekend that is so stereotypically gay, Maria by Callas, the Maria Callas documentary.
Yeah.
For all of you opera fans out there, Maria Callas fans, it's well worth seeing. It's utterly charming and involving, but it's nothing but a clip show of Maria Callas. They just went and got singing, talking. They have Joyce DiDonato, a current soprano, reading from her letters.
What did she
diaries.
say about Jackie Kennedy?
Oh, not happy. and very sad about losing Aristo, as she called him, Aristotle Onassis, but then he came back. But at one point she's making her comeback in New York, and they interview fans, a man on the street interviews in New York. 4 gay men right after
Please.
each other. These young guys on the street. Maybe you were one of them. Go see Maria by Callas and see yourself.
I am disposing of an estate of an opera fan, and there are a lot of Maria Callas records and books on the shelf.
Well, there you go.
If you would like some of them, send me an email, andyhum@aol.com.
And news from TV, Grey's Anatomy finally has an out gay male character. The character is Levi Schmidt.
Played by Jake Borelli, and so he's come out at the same time as his character. Of course, his family and friends knew, and people who knew him, but he's come out publicly. So Jake Borelli, welcome to the club.
Yeah, and he professes great delight at having this opportunity to come out.
Well, we talked about some closet cases and things, and and again, in the West, it's not a great thing to be, but acting is one of the professions that remains hardest to come out for a lot of people because they don't want people not to cast them in anything. But it's happening more and more and more that people are coming out.
And we want to remind you that next week, Logo on November 15th at 8 p.m. will be airing Trans Military, a documentary about trans people serving in the U.S. military. I've seen parts of it over the last couple of years because the filmmakers have been showing bits and pieces of it as they tried to raise money for it and stuff. And it looks quite compelling. I've set my DVR already.
Now, if we can only save trans people in the military from the wrath of Khan.
So
Trump.
I hate Jeff Sessions, and I think he is a monster. But he made some attempt to protect
Mueller.
the Justice Department. And with him gone, it can only get worse.
We're a little scared.
We are.
But we're going to fight.
And we'll be back
And we
here
hope
next
you will
week
too.
to tell you about all the rest of the personnel changes in the Trump administration between now and then.
If we're still allowed to speak.
But go to victoryfund.org/results2018 to find out about all the LGBT candidates who won and lost. See you next week.